Hello everyone, today we are going to discuss about the top 5 oldest civilizations in the world. 5. The Chinese civilization. The Chinese civilization existed between 1600 BC and 1046 BC. This civilization was originated on Yellow River and Yangtze region. The current location of this civilization is the country of China. During this civilization, paper and silk were invented. Ancient China, also known as Han China, comes in at number 5 and doubtlessly has one of the most diverse histories. The Yellow River civilization is said to be the beginning of the entire Chinese civilization, as this is where the earliest dynasties were based. It was around 2700 BC that the legendary Yellow Emperor began his rule, which later led to the birth of many dynasties that went on to rule mainland China. In 2070 BC, the Xia dynasty became the first to rule the whole of China, as described in ancient historical chronicles. From then on, there were a number of dynasties that held control during different periods of time until the end of the Qing dynasty in 1912 with the Xinhai Revolution. This marked the end of more than 4 millennia of ancient Chinese civilization. By this time, however, the Chinese had given the world some of its most useful inventions and products, such as gunpowder, paper, printing, the compass, alcohol, cannons, and many more. 4. The Mayan civilization. The Mayan civilization existed from 2600 BC to 900 AD. This civilization was originated around present-day Yucatan. The current locations of this civilization are Yucatan, Quintana Roo, Campeche, Tabasco, and Chiapas in Mexico, and south through Guatemala, Belize, El Salvador, and Honduras. At this civilization, the complex understanding of astronomy were found. The ancient Mayan civilization flourished in Central America from about 2600 BC and has been much talked about because of the calendar it introduced. Once established, the Mayan civilization went on to prosper and become highly sophisticated with a booming population of about 19 million at its peak. By 700 BC, the Mayans had already devised their own system of writing, which they used to create solar calendars carved in stone. According to them, the world was created on August 11, 3114 BC, which is the date from which their calendar begins. The supposed end date was December 21, 2012. The ancient Mayans were culturally rich compared to many of their contemporary civilizations, and the Mayans and Aztecs both built pyramids, many of which are larger than those in Egypt. But the sudden decline and abrupt end of the Mayans has long been one of ancient history's most intriguing mysteries. Why did the Mayans, a remarkably sophisticated civilization made up of more than 19 million people, suddenly collapse sometime during the 8th or 9th century? The Mayan people did not disappear completely, however, their descendants still live in parts of Central America. 3. The ancient Egyptian civilization. The ancient Egyptian civilization existed between 3150 BC 30 BC. This civilization was originated at banks of the Nile. The current location of this civilization is Egypt. The major highlights of this civilization is the construction of pyramids. Ancient Egypt is one of the oldest and culturally rich civilizations on this list. The ancient Egyptian civilization, a majestic civilization from the banks of the Nile, is known for its prodigious culture, its pharaohs, the enduring pyramids, and the Sphinx. The civilization coalesced around 3150 BC with the political unification of Upper and Lower Egypt under the first pharaoh. But this would not have been possible had there not already been settlers around the Nile Valley in early 3500 BC. The history of ancient Egypt can be divided into a series of stable kingdoms separated by periods of relative instability, known as intermediate periods: the Old Kingdom of the Early Bronze Age, the Middle Kingdom of the Middle Bronze Age, and the New Kingdom of the Late Bronze Age. Ancient Egypt gave us the pyramids, the mummies that preserve the ancient pharaohs to this day, hieroglyphics, and much more. Ancient Egypt reached its pinnacle during the New Kingdom, when pharaohs like Ramesses the Great ruled with such authority that another contemporary civilization, the Nubians, also came under Egyptian rule. 2. The Indus Valley Civilization. The Indus Valley Civilization existed between 3300 BC 1900 BC. This civilization was originated around the basin of the Indus River. The current locations of this civilization are northeast Afghanistan to Pakistan and northwest India. The major highlights of this civilization is it's one of the most widespread civilizations, covering 1,250,000 kilometers. One of the oldest civilizations on this list, the Indus Valley Civilization, lies at the very heart of subsequent civilizations that arose in the region of the Indus Valley. This civilization flourished in areas extending from what is today northeast Afghanistan to Pakistan and northwest India. Along with ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia, it was one of three early civilizations of the ancient world, and of the three, it was the most widespread, covering an area of 1,250,000 kilometers. Entire populations were settled in the Indus River basin, one of the major rivers in Asia, and another river named Ghaggar Hakra, which once used to flow through northeast India and eastern Pakistan. Also known as the Harappan civilization and the Mohenjo-Daro civilization, named after the excavation sites where the remains of the civilization were found. The peak phase of this civilization is said to have lasted from 2600 BC to around 1900 BC. A sophisticated and technologically advanced urban culture is evident in the Indus Valley Civilization, making its capital the first urban center in the region. The people of the Indus Valley Civilization achieved great accuracy in measuring length, mass, and time, and based on artifacts found in excavations, it is evident that the culture was rich in arts and crafts as well. 1. The Mesopotamian Civilization. The Mesopotamian civilization existed between 3500 BC 500 BC. This civilization was originated on northeast by the Zagros Mountains, southeast by the Arabian Plateau. The current locations of this civilization are Iraq, Syria, and Turkey. The meaning of this civilization is land between rivers. It was derived from Greek. The origin of Mesopotamia dates back so far that there is no known evidence of any other civilized society before them. The timeline of ancient Mesopotamia is usually held to be from around 3300 BC to 750 BC. Mesopotamia is generally credited as being the first place where civilized society truly began to take shape. It was somewhere around 8000 BC that people developed the idea of agriculture and slowly started to domesticate animals for both food and to assist in farming. People had already been creating art well before the Mesopotamians, but this was part of human culture, not human civilization. It was the Mesopotamian civilization that refined this, adding to and formalizing all these systems, and combining them to create the first civilization. They prospered in the regions of modern-day Iraq, then known as Babylonia, Sumer, and the Assyria highlands.